Welcome to the No Filter, No Apologies podcast with Rebecca Sachs and Katie Shapiro.
We are given a different set of career rules, and everyone is designed to keep us quiet, keep us grateful, and replaceable.
Heavy on the quiet.
And so the first one, work hard and you'll be rewarded, is a complete lie.
No, it's not, because you will be rewarded. You'll just be rewarded with more work.
Not rewarded in the instance that you're looking to be rewarded, whether financially or with a promotion or a title change of some sort. And so
you'll get more and more work until you speak up on your own and ask. You can't sit back and wait your turn. You can't sit back and say, oh, I keep taking on more work and then they're going to recognize me for what I did. And when review time comes, they're going to give me more than my standard 2 or 3% increase. No, that's not how that works. You need to speak up and say, I'm working hard and I deserve additional compensation or a change in title. And you have to bring that to your leaders, because believe me, as long as a company can pay you and get more out of you, they're going to do that. That's a smart business decision in some ways, from a financial view only, to get you to perform and deliver a high workload and not compensate you for it.
And then they're not mind readers either, right? And so if you want something, you have to ask for it.
That was such a kinder way to say it than I said it. Yes. That is true, especially if you work in a really large company, because you are a cog in a wheel of some sorts, and so they can lose sight of the fact that maybe you've taken on additional stretch projects and you haven't been compensated for it, or you're ready for the next level and that hasn't been recognized. So that was really nice of you to bring up that way.
Well, and then, if you are really good at your job and there is a leadership opportunity, sometimes you're just going to get thrown in that leadership opportunity where you maybe aren't a people leader or want to be a people leader. But because you excel in the role that you're doing, you get moved into that leadership role, which we've seen in organizations. And one, it's not fair to the people that they're leading, but it's also not fair to that leader, because you're not setting them up for success. You're giving them the title, but are you giving them the tools to
succeed? Yeah, you're definitely
not. At a previous organization I was at, there was, once you were promoted into a people manager role, they would provide training. And
isn't that a novel idea, training your people?
However, this was not true training.
Yeah, I think we were just talking about this the other day. I was talking about it with someone, and they were like, how did you learn how to lead people the way that you do? Because you lead each individual as a part of the team, and you identify what's in the individual and how to motivate them. And like, a lot of leaders will say, I don't have time for that. This is your job. Show up, do your job, etc. And I always said, like, that's a disservice to your team and the company as a whole, because your job as the leader is to know how each part of your machine works, what motivates it, how it needs to be greased, right? And how do you keep them functioning at a high level? That's your entire function as a leader, right? And so I said, I can point to some great trainings I've been through, and I can point to some trainings that were not trainings. But I think the biggest thing is being able to witness great leaders and see what they did, even from a very young age. I started working when I was 15. And I saw how leaders would incentivize employees in different ways with very low budgets and things like that, and how people worked harder for people when they did certain things. I know one that stands out to me is, I worked for an organization. My dad was hospitalized, and then they said he was terminal. They gave us a few weeks. And not to bring everybody down, it's not a downer story. My boss and my boss's boss, I was traveling at the time. I was halfway across the country. And my computer exploded at this event my computer literally had a fireball come out of it. They told me I could go back to Philadelphia to be with my dad. They shipped me a new laptop. They told me not to worry about working. We would figure out my PTO later. I worked anyway. I was working at night when I wasn't with my dad. And then for the next 3 weeks, from the time that happened till the time he passed, I was working from home. This is before work from home was a thing. They were checking on me. They were telling me not to worry about it. And because of that trust in me, that investment in me, this investment in me at that time as a person, I went above and beyond for them during that time, after that time. Everything I did was like, these people poured into me at a time. They didn't have to. That wasn't a business thing they had to
Right.
do. There was bereavement time. I could have taken my 3 days or whatever. They did not allow that. They actually embraced me, and it made me work so much harder for them. And I think that's a really important key to leadership, is understanding
Absolutely.
that you're dealing with human capital. And
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and I think just because you're good at what you do doesn't, and you can be an expert in your field, doesn't mean that you can be a leader, right? And so that's where all that training and
Yep.
education comes with it. But building the rapport with your team and getting to know them on an individual basis and understanding, like you said, their motivators, it gives you a different level as a leader, because you're not just there dictating. And
Right.
I think even when I first started working, a lot of the leaders I had weren't great leaders, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so then when I became a leader, the woman in my retail experience, the woman who was my leader, she kind of like was a second mom to me, because it was several states away from where I grew up. And she had the perfect store, so I wanted to emulate that and create the perfect store. But she also was super down to earth and open and honest, and I think that was something that I've always taken with me. And then as I got more into corporate environments, I was more hesitant to be my authentic self.
Yeah.
And then, as I want to say, probably after the age of 30 is when I stopped really caring if people thought I was my authentic self or not. Right. I think there's shifts that happen as you progress in your career, and you know that you're good at something and you can excel.
Yeah.
Then you can kind of take the mask off, if you will, and be who you are.
I think I was born with, I don't know if I was born or conditioned into, my dad was a Marine, my mom was a teacher. So there were high standards and a very high work ethic.
Yeah.
Like 100% was the minimum. So any job that I went into, I went in with 100% is my lowest bar. I need to do more. And unlearning that, right, was huge. So that lie that we're told, work hard and you'll be rewarded, I was seeing it in real time, because I was working hard and I was being rewarded in terms of more work. And oh, we see so much potential in you here, do these 10 things. And I would do them because I'm like, okay, well, 100% is my lowest bar. I'm going to do this. And then I wasn't getting the money, or I wasn't getting the title, and I wasn't, it took me a little while to realize, no, I have to have a boundary on this and say, I can do that, but that means I'm taking on an additional job. I spoke up and said, I've now taken on, it was really tremendous things, and I was doing quite a bit, and I said, I need a different compensation and a different type of title. And it took a long time to unlearn the working hard doesn't always get you rewarded. In the corporate workspace, you have to advocate for yourself, you have to speak up, and you have to do it in a strategic way, right? Because organizations will look at what is the budget, et cetera. So if you want to continue to stand out and get that higher compensation, you need to be able to say, I could do this. Here are the resources I need, and here is, a plan that I drew up with what you're asking me to do. And I don't know if you remember this. I used to say to our team when we worked together, if you have an idea, it shouldn't come to me. I was the highest in the department. So I would say the idea shouldn't make its way to me until you've had it peer reviewed, right?
Yeah.
And you're coming to me with a fully developed plan and idea. Don't just come to me with the idea. Right. And what it did is it actually empowered our associates, right? To think creatively, to build things together. It built their skills up, because now they feel like it's a formal presentation to leadership of the department. And they had a peer review, so they would get buy-in. So they were learning things before it got to Rebecca or I in that team. But it was very important for me to say, you need to understand that if you're going to present an idea, or if you want to get a raise, or if you want to get a new job title, that you need to be able to say, here's why, here's what is warranted. And you need to make a business case for it. You can't just say, I looked up the salary and I'm supposed to be making this. The company is there. That's,
And I think that's, from working with you, one of the biggest takeaways I've ever had was creating those business cases. And it's something that I just do now, right? I look at spend on what we've done, what we could spend, what the ROI potentially could be, because how is anybody going to say yes to something if you can't provide potential ROI or what the positive impact to the business is?
Exactly.
I'm working on that in my communications class right now too, right? I have to do a persuasive presentation on getting enhanced technology for a company. And so it's just, it's interesting, right? Because I've always quantified what the ROI is and always been able to make the business case. In more recent years, have not been given the green light on things that were needed. It's like a quarter of what it was needed, but I think there's also a lack of understanding, and we all know I don't provide all the context either. So while I try to, but yeah, it's just
So just remember, for that lie that you're being told, working hard doesn't always mean that you're going to get rewarded. Yeah. You're going to have to make a business case and speak up if you feel like you're entitled to a new title or compensation, etc., and have that ready to go. So number 2 lie you should bring up. I am fired up today, ladies, about number 2. Hit me with it, Rebecca, the lie we're told.
Be likable is the workplace control mechanism.
Yes, it's about control. It is not relevant to your performance, right? Everybody, I think, wants to be liked. You go to work, you want to be liked, you want to get along with people, but there are millions of people in this world. Not everybody's going to like you. You're going to have to get over it. You all have a job to do. But I think women are expected to be more likable.
Well, and I think we're conditioned to be, I don't want to say people pleasers because that's not the right word, but agreeable or,
polite.
Just not do what you're told, but in a sense, do what you're told.
Smile while you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Smile.
But I, especially in the workplace, right? Like, I'm being paid to be here. You don't have to like me, but we have a job to get done. So let's work together to get the job done. And then we go our separate ways after. You don't have to like me, but we're getting paid to do something. So let's do our job and make sure that we're providing results.
Yeah, I know you and I were talking earlier about both of us have had experiences with other women actually that we didn't like and they didn't like us. There's completely different scenarios prior to us ever even knowing each other. I'll share mine. You can definitely chime in. I worked with a woman. We had the 2 largest teams in the company. We just had very different styles. We were both very successful, and we both had very different leadership styles and very different ideas of how things should get done. And our teams overlapped a lot. And she and I got put on a project, and we had the highest performing team on that project. We had the least amount of errors for that project. And so every project after that, they would put her and I together on a team. And we used to joke, we're like, we're never going to go out for a drink together, but damn if we're not good in the workplace. Like, look at this. And fun fact, my last day there, they threw a party for me, and there was a bar in this place. Yeah. At the party, she came up and she said, well, look who's having drinks together. And we've kept in touch since. And it was one of those moments where we didn't necessarily like each other, but we had so much respect for each other, and we're so successful together. And I know you have a similar experience.
She's actually one of my dear friends now. And when we first started working together, I would complain about working with her because she wouldn't clean up her space or do what she was supposed to do. And she was kind of loud and disheveled in a sense, right? Would just kind of when you see like somebody just throwing tissues everywhere, like I felt like that's kind of how she would walk into the store and just make a disaster, right? Like tornado coming through. And I was so neat and tidy within my stores. It was a lot for me to handle. Anyway, so she would always make a mess. So I couldn't stand her either, but then we started hanging out outside of work, and eventually she started listening to my guidance and direction, and then ended up being promoted and working multiple stores, taking over the high volume store that I had prior to leaving.
That's great.
The organization. And so she was really able to make a name for herself, right? I think she initially took my direct communication. I think that's what probably was her turnoff. Yeah. And then eventually realized that it was just I had positive intent behind it, and became successful with it. So
that's great that you guys became friends.
Oh yeah, we're still friends to this day.
That's a bonus if you can work with someone and become friends, I think. And sometimes it's just what I said. We were highly respectful of each other and really respected the two. So that was woman on woman likability. Yeah. But let's talk about woman on man likability, because I have been in so many rooms where it's like, if you challenge that expectation that we should be polite and kind and, what did you say, agreeable, then you're bossy, you're aggressive, you're a bitch, or as Rebecca was called, a shark in the water, out for blood.
Out for blood, yeah. And this was just a previous hiring manager was no-showing interviews. And it's so unacceptable for anyone to no-show an interview. Candidate, hiring manager, whatever, but you're taking away somebody's time. They got dressed, they showed up for the interview, they came to have a conversation with you, and then you no-show them. You don't even call your recruiter to say that you're not going to be there.
Right.
And so I sent a very direct email after leaving a voicemail, but sent a very direct email, and then he reached out to one of my recruiters saying that I was out for blood. I was a shark out for blood.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to hold him accountable for his failures.
There it is. How dare you?
Yeah, right? Why would I hold anybody
someone accountable? I think there's some men that are really receptive and supportive of women, but I think that men have a harder time when women hold them accountable, especially in the male-dominated workplaces. When you are a woman and we're trying to hold someone accountable, the response was, you're a shark out for water, you're too abrasive, Katie, you overstepped the line of your role, etc. And you just need to be likable. And the way that I'm likable in work is by performing. Is through my results. I have a job to do. I have to deliver for the company, and if I'm delivering at a high level, guess what? We can get along, right? And obviously you can't cross crazy lines. You need to be professional. You need to be, able to get along with people and find a way to work. But
it doesn't mean you also have to sacrifice who you are, right? And so you've mentioned to me an instance where you were trying to have a conversation and you were being yelled at the entire time.
Oh, I was being screamed at and cursed at by someone very high in the organization. And it was in front of another associate as well. We were on the phone, and 3 times, I have asked you thrice for all of my Schitt's Creek fans out there, but 3 times I said, I want to continue this conversation with you, but if you continue yelling at me, I'm going to have to hang up. This is inappropriate. And he continued screaming and yelling, and I said, okay, I'm hanging up. I hope you have a great day. I'll talk to you when you're able to have a normal conversation with me. And I immediately called my boss to let her know that, hey, this happened, because this person was in a significant position of power, and I knew she would probably get a call about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I let her know this is what happened, and it was inappropriate, and I don't want to make a big deal about it, but I'm not going to engage with someone who's screaming at me like that in front of another person, cursing, all of the things in a workplace. And her response to me was, Katie, you know how these guys are. Sometimes they just need to yell, and you need to stroke their ego and then let them get it out of their system and move on.
I feel like that, not only is that inappropriate, but I feel like that's borderline sexual harassment in a sense. Why are we stroking anything at work, okay? I mean, come on.
I agree with that. And my response was, if he needs his ego stroked, he can go to his mother or his wife. Right. I am neither. I am his business partner. Right. My job is to deliver a service, and it's not that one. Yeah. So exactly. I'm going to, and he and I were fine after that, actually. Yeah. He definitely, I think, knew that he couldn't approach me the same way he could approach other women, but you shouldn't have to do that. Right. In there. And then it was enabled by another leader, and well, not by me, because I was not going to accept that. I'm okay not being liked. Not everybody's going to like me. That's fine. And so, yeah, I think you have to watch out for those things and not bend your character, because
well, it goes back to like what your core values are as a person, right? And I recently read a book for my leadership class and talking about the values. Personal and professional shouldn't be different. Your values are your values, right? Yes. And you shouldn't have to have personal and professional. Your values are your values, and they should carry over from your personal to your professional life. Yes. It should be something that you just do because that's what you believe in. It has nothing to do with, I'm going to act this way here and then this way here.
And I remember we talked in the last episode about authenticity, right? And the exhaustion that comes with performing in the corporate space. Yeah. And in that moment, I really was like, am I going to have to act differently and accept a different behavior in the workplace where it should be more professional than I would in my home or on the street or in a store? And I'm from Philadelphia. Like, we don't do that. Right. Like, you are not going to yell at me and curse at me, especially not in the workplace, and think that I'm going to sit there and then be like, it's okay, I know you're having a moment. No, absolutely not. You are not going to be disrespectful. Not to me, not ever. So, ladies, likability is not a KPI. It is not on your performance review. Again, I think it's important to stress. You do have to be professional, right? You do have to get your job done.
You can't just be a bitch, right? You can't just be rude and disrespectful, but you don't have to act like somebody that you're not to be liked.
Yeah, and it's a moving target, I think, likability, especially if you're working with a lot of different people or teams, depending on where you are. And likability varies per other person. So you know what people like? If their job or a portion of their job success depends on you doing your job successfully, that is the ultimate, deal breaker. If you're performing at a high level, they'll get over the fact that maybe you're a little abrasive, or maybe they can't yell at you like they want to, because guess what? You deliver for them every single time.
Right.
And that's what happens. And if they don't, move on. Find another company because it's not appropriate.
It's true. And,
and you have to be careful, because what I've seen, especially we've sat in a lot of conversations about reviews and promotions and things like that. And what we historically see is that men are reviewed on performance, and women are reviewed on personality, and they should be the same. So just keep that in mind.
Absolutely. There was an instance where I had a conversation with a male leader. We both reported to the same person, and he had a meeting conflict on his calendar. However, the interview time slots were always hard points on the calendar, never changed, right? Hard times, dates, whatever. And he was scheduled for an interview, came in and yelled at me for like 10 minutes about how he wasn't available. This conflicted with his availability. And I said, okay, no problem. I will fix it. And so to kind of close the circle on it, because he said that he wasn't told that he was going to be in the interviews, but I went back to find the date and sent him an email and said, hey, on this date we had this meeting. Here's the presentation I shared during that time, just as a reminder, whatever. And I said, moving forward, we'll take you out of these interviews, no problem. So then my boss called me and said, coaching moment, and tried to coach me and saying that I wasn't able to take him out of interviews. And I said, but he took himself out of the interviews. I didn't do anything. Like, this is all part of, how come this conversation didn't happen before you called me?
Right.
He left out a big chunk. I said, he stood in my door and yelled at me for 15 minutes. So I just closed the loop and sent an email.
Why are we yelling in the word? Why are we yelling at people?
Because we don't know how to have conversations. And
But I also feel like men feel like they can yell at women more than they would yell at another man.
Yeah.
Because I have witnessed men speaking to a woman differently than they would ever speak to another man. Or if a man steps in and says, hey, that's not appropriate, all of a sudden the tone, the demeanor, everything changes. And, I have a son, and I've raised him to say, you need to step in when you see that happening, because if you know somebody wouldn't speak to you that way, don't allow them to speak to someone else that way, of any gender. But I said, in your field, you're definitely going to see it more with women. You need to speak up and say that's not acceptable, and so. And
also, this was a person who would barely ever speak. And when he would speak, he yelled at me once, right? Like, that was the only time he ever yelled at me, because then I kind of put him in his place by sending that email and confirming that you were fully aware of what was happening when it was happening. But I remembered one of the other leaders in the organization came over and was like, are you okay? I was like, I'm fine. He's not going to be, but I'm fine. Because I didn't do anything wrong. He's the one that came in, like, what are those trucks that run?
A Mack truck.
Thank you. That. Yep.
So did you notice the trend, I think? So women's likability in the workplace decreases when we hold people accountable.
Yep.
Or when we're direct, or when we don't accept poor behavior directed toward us. And when you speak up and stand up for yourself and say, no, I'm not going to accept that kind of behavior. So ladies, if that's what likable is, you don't want to be likable in any company or situation that you're in.
Yeah, and I also think there's an aspect to it where whatever you're asked to do, you should do. Right? Like,
without questioning it.
Yeah, right. And so we've talked about this previously, where if you're in a meeting and say you're the only woman on the call, they'll be like, okay, Katie, can you send out that invite?
Oh,
or Katie, can you do this? And
the housework.
There you go. That's the word you use.
Yes.
And if you say, no, so-and-so can do it, then you're looked at like a bitch.
Yeah. I've had that happen in a meeting where I think I was one of two women on the call. And a peer had said, yeah, Katie, why don't you look at everybody's calendars, get us all together, and, schedule that meeting. And it was a meeting for his department. It wasn't a meeting I needed. And I was like, no, I don't have the bandwidth to do that. I'm sure you can use your assistant in your department to get that scheduled. And there was a very awkward silence.
So
while everybody processed that moment.
Well, and I agree, right? Like I've seen people do that. Now, it varies on what the work environment is and who's on the call and what you're doing, like what kind of calendar invite you're sending. If it, to your point, if it's for somebody else's team, why would you do that?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely no sense. But you know, if you have the bandwidth, you can do it. You don't have to always say no, right?
Yeah.
And so, but a mentor of mine told me once that as a woman leader in a room of all their leaders, if you were the only female, they're always no doubtably going to ask you to make coffee. And when they do, if they do, you make the absolute worst cup of coffee you can ever have, so they'll never ask you again. Because for whatever reason, when you're in a room full of leaders and the only woman in there, they'll tell you to make the coffee.
Fun fact, nobody wants me to make coffee because I don't know how, and I'm awful at it, and I don't drink it. So don't ask me to make coffee. I'm A, not doing it, and B, if I did do it, it would be bad and not even intentionally.
Yeah.
So I think that's great advice, but it also makes me a little bit sad because it's like, and can I ask, like, is she older than us?
A little bit older, but
So different.
however, her mother was an executive at a very large organization before women were ever executives.
Right.
And so she kind of paved
go to her.
Yeah,
Power family.
she's kind of paved the path for her, and that's what her mother told her. Because that was when she became an executive and went into that boardroom, the first thing they said was make us coffee. And she did. She made the worst cup of coffee ever. They never asked her again.
Wow.
And so then my mentors did the same thing.
Wow. I'm not making coffee for anybody.
No, I'll tell them to go pound sand. I'm not doing that.
We're not doing that.
Don't you have an EI?
We're not making coffee. We're not scheduling meetings unless that's a function of your job.
Right.
Yeah. You're great. Okay, what's the next lie that women are told, Rebecca?
Wait your turn.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's bullshit.
And it ends up being career suicide for women in general.
100%. Yeah.
If I sit here and wait and don't ask for what I'm supposed to be given, it's never going to happen. And it goes back to nobody's a mind reader. You have to speak up and advocate for yourself.
Yeah. I think a lot of times you'll see people, how did they get invited into that meeting? What was that meeting? How did they even know about that meeting? And then somebody will get a stretch project out of it. And you're like, wait a second, how did this person get this stretch project? And you sit there and you go, oh, my turn will come, my turn will come, my turn will come. But it won't. And you know what's funny? I'm thinking this out loud is the being unwilling to wait your turn and having to speak up and advocate for yourself goes directly against the likability piece. And to tie it back to how you started us off, it all goes back to controlling women.
Yeah.
Because if you make us think speaking up and asking for more makes us less likable, then we're going to be less likely to do that. And then we're going to hold ourselves back. And when you go, how come I haven't been given the same opportunities as Joe, Steve, whatever?
Yeah.
They're going to say, well, you haven't asked. You haven't put yourself out there. Oh, okay. So, ladies, don't make coffee. Start speaking up for yourselves.
Trusting the process. That's another one, right? Well, first of all, who's identifying the process? And you can't just trust the process because, again, who's a mind reader? Who's going to know that you're going through that process or you want to accomplish the things that you're looking to accomplish?
Not in the corporate environment, right? In the corporate, I know their trust the process is used in a lot of ways, sometimes in just trusting life, fate, whatever, if you have faith or something like that. But I think in the corporate environment, you have departments that have their own goals. You have the company that has their umbrella goals. Everybody has their own focus. And then as individuals, we show up to work for very different reasons, right? So nobody's thinking about you but you. So you have to not wait your turn. You have to ask for your turn, demand your turn, put yourself out there, make yourself visible to people, and speak up. And also self-promote, which is a very difficult thing for me in my career. I think humility is important and being humble, but I've learned very quickly in the corporate environment, you can't do that. Humility won't get you promoted. So you got to really speak up and not.
I mean, you have to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't advocate for yourself, no one's going to.
Right.
And I see a lot more men advocate for themselves than women.
Yes.
I've seen it, and just internally within organizations, as you're assisting the process for internal promotions or internal job shifting, from one role to another and advocating for the salary that they should be getting.
Yeah.
I've seen men do it. I have yet to see women do it. To the
I've
extent that they
seen,
should.
yes, I haven't seen it compared to men. I think we were talking about this earlier. The way that men negotiate is as if they are owed that money.
Yeah.
Right? And the way that we've seen women negotiate is as if they're asking for a favor and they have to justify it. So men will walk into a room with a different level of confidence about, hey, I'm doing this work. This work is worth this compensation. I need a raise or I'm leaving. And they're very confident saying that because they're confident that they can leave that workplace, get a job making more money, and they'll push it. Whereas women say, hey, I've been doing some research. As you know, I've taken on these 3 additional projects and I've done this. No, your boss knows what projects they've given you. Yeah. They know what projects you've taken on. They should know most of it. It's where you can go in and say, as you know, you've assigned me these additional things and I'm due this compensation, or I want to be considered for the director role that's up because I think taking on these stretch projects has more than proven my potential and capability in that role.
Right.
So
And I think the likability and the confidence aspect, right? Like, you want people to like you in the work environment, but if you're too confident, you're a bitch, and you're not approachable.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my God.
And so, like, you can be direct and blunt and still be approachable. Yeah. Right? And still be liked. But if you're confident in your capabilities and what you bring to the table, why can't you just be confident? Why
what I hear a lot is confidence in men is leadership ability. Confidence in women is difficulty and intimidation. And I always say, I'm not intimidating. You're just intimidated. Yeah. What does that say about you? Yeah. Are you intimidated by me? Little me? So, yeah, I definitely think you cannot wait your turn for anything in the corporate environment because nobody is going to come to you, tap you on the shoulder and say, it's your turn now. You have to show up and say, it's my turn now. What are the next steps to make this happen? Yeah. That's the only way to do that.
And I think being confident in your capabilities, right? Knowing what you bring to the table is what should give you that boost of confidence. Right. And not the people that you're dealing with, right? It doesn't matter how the people treat you, right? You want to be able to still be confident in your capabilities and get what, I don't want to say what you're owed, but get what you deserve. And what
you've earned.
What you worked so hard for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, what was I going to say? I just lost my train of thought, which happens frequently.
Same.
I don't remember, but we'll leave it there. But I do think, so there were 3 lies, just to kind of recap it for our audience. What was number 1? Our number 1 lie being told to women in the workplace is?
Work hard and you'll be rewarded.
That's crap.
The second one was be likable. And be likable is the workplace control mechanism.
Yes. And then the third was
wait your turn is career suicide.
Right. And so what we're saying with point 1, which is, what was it again?
Work hard and you'll be rewarded.
Work hard and you'll be rewarded. Yes, with more work. So we want you to work hard and then advocate for the reward that you've earned. Yes. Then with be likable in the workplace, that's a control mechanism. People will like you through your results. So deliver on results to the business. As Rebecca excellently pointed out, have your business case ready. Know your work, right? So that you can speak up for it. And then don't wait your turn. You got to take your turn.
Yep. Follow us on all your socials, NFNA Podcast. Until next time.